everyone, we are here to continue reading our story, James and the Giant Peach, and we are on chapter 24. But up on the peach itself, everyone was still happy and excited. "I wonder where we'll finish up this time," the earthworm said. "Who cares?" they answered. "Seagulls always go back to land sooner or later." Up and up they went, high above the highest clouds. The peach swayed gently from side to side as it floated along. "Wouldn't this be a perfect time for a little music?" the ladybug asked. "How about it, old grasshopper?" "With pleasure, dear lady," the old green grasshopper answered, bowing from the waist. "Oh, hooray! He's going to play for us!" they cried, and immediately the whole company sat themselves down in a circle around the old green musician, and the concert began. From the moment that the first note was struck, the audience became completely spellbound. And as for James, never had he heard such beautiful music as this. In the garden at home on summer's evening, he had listened many times to the sound of grasshoppers chirping in the grass, and he had always liked the noise that they made. But this was a different kind of noise altogether. This was real music. Chords, harmonies, tunes, and all of the rest of it. And what a wonderful instrument the old green grasshopper was playing on. It was like a violin. It was almost exactly as though he were playing upon a violin. The bow of the violin was the part that moved, and was his back leg. The string of the violin was the part that made the sound, was the edge of his wing. He was using only the top of his back leg, the thigh, and he was stroking this up and down against the edge of his wing with incredible skill, sometimes slowly, sometimes fast, but always with the same easy flowing action. It was precisely the way a clever violinist would have used his bow, and the music came pouring out and filled the whole blue sky around them with magic melodies. When the first part was finished, everyone clapped madly, and Miss Spider stood up and shouted, "Bravo! Encore! Give us some more!" "Did you like that, James?" the old green grasshopper asked, smiling at the small boy. "Oh, I loved it," James answered. "It was beautiful. It was as though you had a real violin in your hands." "A real violin?" the old green grasshopper cried. "Good heavens, I like that. My dear boy, I am a real violin. It is part of my own body." "But do all grasshoppers play their music on violins the same way as you do?" James asked him. "No," he answered, "not all. If you want to know, I happen to be a short-horned grasshopper. I have two short feelers coming from my head. Can you see them? There they are. They are quite short, aren't they? That's why they call me a short-horn. And we shorthorns are the ones who play our music in the violin style using a bow." "My long-horned relatives are the ones who have the long curvy feelers coming out of their heads. They make their music simply by rubbing the edges of their two top wings together. They are not violinists, they are wing rubbers, and a rather inferior noise these wing rubbers produce too. If I may say so, it sounds more like a banjo than a fiddle." "How fascinating this all is," cried James. "And to think that up until now I had never even wondered how a grasshopper made his sound." "My dear young fellow," the green grasshopper said gently, "there are a whole lot of things in this world of ours that you haven't started wondering about yet. Where, for example, do you think I keep my ears?" "Your ears? Why, in your head, of course." Everyone burst out laughing. "You mean you don't even know that?" cried the centipede. "Try again," said the old green grasshopper, smiling at James. "You can't possibly keep them anywhere else." Oh, can't I? Well, I give up. Where do you keep them? Right here, the old green grasshopper said, one on each side of my tummy. It's not true. Of course it's true. What's so peculiar about that? You ought to see where my cousin, the crickets, and the katydids keep theirs. Where do they keep them? In their legs, one in each front leg, just below the knee. You mean you didn't know that either? The centipede said scornfully. You're joking, James said. Nobody could possibly have ears in his legs. Why not? Because it's ridiculous, that's why. You know what I think is ridiculous, the centipede said, grinning away as usual. I don't mean to be rude, but I think it is ridiculous to have ears on the side of one's head. It certainly looks ridiculous. You ought to take a peek in the mirror someday and see for yourself. Pest! Cried the earthworm. Why must you always be so rude and rambunctious to everyone? You ought to apologize to James at once. Chapter 25. James didn't want the earthworm and centipede to get into another argument. So he said quickly to the earthworm, Tell me, do you play any kind of music? No, but I do other things, some of which are really quite extraordinary. The earthworm said, brightening. Such as what? Asked James. Well, the earthworm said, next time you stand in a field or a garden and look around you, then just remember this, that every grain of soil upon the surface of the land, every tiny little bit of soil that you can see has actually passed through my body of an earthworm during the last few years. Isn't that wonderful? It's not possible, said James. My dear boy, it's a fact. You mean you actually swallow soil like mad, the earthworm said proudly, in one end and out the other. But what's the point? What do you mean, what's the point? Why do you do it? We do it for the farmers. It makes the soil nice and light and crumbly so that when things will grow well in it. If you really want to know, the farmers couldn't do it without us. We are essential. We are vital. So it is only natural that the farmer should love us. He loves us even more, I believe, than he loves the ladybug. The ladybug, said James, turning back to look at her. Do they love you too? I am told that they do. The ladybug answered modestly, blushing all over. In fact, I understand that in some places the farmers love us so much that they go out and buy live ladybugs by the sackful and take them home and set them free in their fields. They are very pleased when they have lots of ladybugs in their field. But why? James asked. Because we gobble up all the nasty little insects that are gobbling up all the farmers' crops. It helps enormously, and we ourselves don't charge a penny for our service. I think you're wonderful, James told her. Can I ask you one special question? Please do. Well, is it really true that I can tell how old a ladybug is by counting her spots? Oh no, that's just a children's story, the ladybug said. We never change our spots. Some of us, of course, are born with more spots than others, but we can never change them. The number of spots that a ladybug has is simply a way of showing which branch of the family she belongs to. I, for example, as you can see for yourself, am a 9-spotted ladybug. I am very lucky. It's a fine thing to be. It is indeed, said James, gazing at the beautiful scarlet shell with its 9 black spots on it. On the other hand, the ladybug went on, some of my less fortunate relatives have no more than 2 spots altogether on their shell. Can you imagine that? They are called 2-spotted ladybugs, and very common and ill-mannered they are, I regret to say. And then, of course, you have the 5-spotted ladybugs as well. They are much nicer than the two-spotted ones, although I myself find them a trifle too saucy for my taste. But they are all of them loved, said James. Yes, the ladybug answered quietly. They are all of them loved. It seems that almost everyone around here is loved, said James. How nice is this? Not me, cried the centipede happily. I am a pest and I'm proud of it. Oh, I am such a shocking, dreadful pest. Hear, hear, the earthworm said. But what about you, Miss Spider? Asked James. Aren't you also much loved in the world? Alas, no, Miss Spider answered, sighing long and loud. I am not loved at all, and yet I do nothing but good. All day long I catch flies and mosquitoes in my webs. I am a decent person. I know you are, said James. It is very unfair the way we spiders are treated, Miss Spider went on. Why, only last week your own horrible Aunt Sponge flushed my poor dear father down the plug hole in the bathtub. The plug hole in the bathtub. Oh, how awful, cried James. I watched the whole thing from a corner up in the ceiling, Miss Spider murmured. It was ghastly. We never saw him again. A large tear rolled down from her cheek and fell with a splash on the floor. But is it not very unlucky to kill a spider? James inquired, looking around at the others. Of course it's unlucky to kill a spider, shouted the centipede. It's about the unluckiest thing anyone can do. Look at what happened to Aunt Sponge after she'd done that. Bum! We all felt it, didn't we, as the peach went over her? Oh, what a lovely bump that must have been for you, Miss Spider. It was satisfactory, Miss Spider answered. Will you sing us a song about it, please? So the centipede did. Aunt Sponge was terrifically fat and tremendously flabby at that. Her tummy and waist were as soggy as paste. It was worse on the place where she sat. So she said, I must make myself flat, and I must make myself sleek as a cat. I shall do without dinner to make myself thinner, but along came the peach, oh, the beautiful peach, and made her far thinner than that. That was very nice, Miss Spider said. Now sing one about Aunt Spiker. With pleasure, the centipede answered, grinning. Aunt Spiker was thin as a wire and as dry as a bone, only drier. She was so long and thin, if you carried her in, you could use her for poking the fire. I must do something quickly, she frowned. I want fat. I want pound upon pound. I must eat lots and lots of marshmallows and chalks till I start bulging out all around. Ah, yes, she announced. I have sworn that I'll alter my figure by dawn, cried the peach with a snigger. I'll alter your figure and iron her out on the lawn. Everybody clapped and called out for more songs from the centipede, who at once launched into his favorite song of all. Once upon a time, when pigs were swine and monkeys chewed tobacco, and the hens took snuff to make themselves tough, and the ducks said quack, quack, quacko, and the porcupines drank fiery wines, and the goats ate tapioca, and the old Mother Hubbard got stuck in a... Look out, centipede, cried James, look out! Chapter 26. The centipede, who had begun dancing wildly around the deck during the song, had suddenly gone too close to the downward curving edge of the peach, and for 3 awful seconds he had stood teetering on the brink, swinging his legs frantically in circles in an effort to stop himself from falling over backwards into the space. But before anyone could reach him, down he went. He gave a shriek of terror as he fell, and the others rushing to the side and peering over saw his poor long body tumbling over and over through the air, getting smaller and smaller until it was out of sight. "Silkworm!" yelled James. "Quick, start spinning!" The silkworm sighed, for she was still very tired from spinning all that silk for the seagulls, but she did what she was told. "I'm going down after him," cried James, grabbing the silk string as it started coming out of the silkworm and tying the end of it around his waist. "The rest of you, hold on to the silkworm so I don't pull her over with me. And later on, if you feel 3 tugs of the string, start hauling me up again." He jumped and he went tumbling down after the centipede, down, 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 towards the sea below. And you can imagine how quickly the silkworm had to spin to keep up with the speed of his fall. "We'll never see either of them again," cried the ladybug. Oh dear, just when we were all so happy too. Miss Spider, the glowworm, and the ladybug all began to cry. So did the earthworm. "I don't care a bit about the centipede," the earthworm sobbed, "but I really did love that little boy." Very softly, the old green grasshopper started to play the funeral march on his violin, and by the time he had finished, everyone, including himself, was in a flood of tears. Suddenly, there came 3 sharp tugs on the rope. "Pull!" shouted the old green grasshopper. "Everyone get behind me and pull!" There was about a mile of string to be hauled in, but they all worked like mad, and in the end, over the side of the Peach, there appeared a dripping wet James with a dripping wet centipede, clinging to him tightly with all 42 of his legs. "He saved me," gasped the centipede. "He swam around in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean until he found me." "My dear boy," the old green grasshopper said, patting James on the back, "I do congratulate you." "My boots," cried the centipede. "Just look at my precious boots. They are all ruined by water." "Be quiet," the earthworm said. "You are lucky to be alive." "Are we still going up and up?" asked James. "We certainly are," answered the old green grasshopper. "And it's beginning to get dark. I know, it'll soon be night." "Why don't we all go down below and keep warm until tomorrow morning?" Miss Spider suggested. "No," the old green grasshopper said. "I think that would be very unwise. It'll be safer if we stay up here through the night and keep watch. Then, if anything happens, we shall anyway be ready for it." And that is the end of chapter 26, and that is where we're stopping today. Thanks for listening.